CRA Monster Truck Racing. From the Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio, it's the four-wheel Jamboree Spring Nationals. This is stop number 2 on the $50,000 Penda Points Championship and the first competition outdoors. In fact, the season began inside the RCA Dome in downtown Indianapolis. It was a miserable night for Team Bigfoot. Neither truck made it to the second round. Now, Dan Runte in the Power Wheels was absent. There was a substitute driver in this truck, and it was also the debut of Bigfoot 15. But Bob Chandler and company have had a chance to regroup, and have they ever. Last night in qualifying, it was a dogfight, a shootout between Dodge and Ford. First of all, Fred Schaefer in the Barefoot Dodge set the world qualifying record for a 250-foot track at 4.86 seconds. But then the spotlight was on Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Cruiser, and he clocked in at a world record 4.84. But that was not the only action from last night's qualifying round. Here with that story is Army Armstrong.
Gary, these are the brutal remains of a violent wreck involving Kirk Dabney and the Overkill truck. Really, it was a tough roll for this privateer. You know, it's the second wreck in the last 3 years at Allen County Fairgrounds. Now, Kirk does not have one of the well-funded operations, and after months of getting ready to run outdoors and chase his national championship Penda Points Series, Dabney literally destroyed his hope for a championship in less than 5 seconds. This is one of the trucks that finished so well last season, and really a lot of people were looking for great things this year, but that was not the case to be. Truck high-sided, he's on the throttle. A picture's worth 1,000 words. We've got another look, Gary, and it was amazing that Dabney was still trying to drive. You can hear him on the throttle trying to get one of those 4 corners to touch something to pull that truck back down. First jump looks smooth. He rolls over. The rear wheel's down on the ground. He's planting the horsepower. When he approached the second jump, everything looked good. Now, the touchdown, the left rear hits, snaps the right axle. Now he's on the gas. You can see he's on the throttle. He's winging the throttle right now as he goes over. But like we say, the picture tells the whole story, but he did walk away.
The truck is controlled by a 4-link suspension system, and the bottom link bars on the rear axle failed. And when you land from up in the air with so much weight and horsepower, you're putting a lot of torque on the 4-link suspension. Back when we broke the Nightmare machine, when we destroyed it here, we had lost a wheel. So, you know, when the axles do become separate from the chassis, the accident is always really, really compiled to a lot worse accident. We had a lot of ground speed, and it didn't bleed the speed off very quick. You know, the first flip felt like it picked the speed up, and it didn't bleed the speed off till right to the last second.
Well, as far as things go today, what started last night as a slapping contest kind of turned into a full blown-out street fight, because both Dodges of Fred Schaefer and both Fords of Bob Chandler made it to the second round. That's the Dodge Ford story Gary was telling you about. That quest to be the world champion, to be the quickest. However, there could be a trump card, and it's not a Dodge and it's not a Ford. The old Carolina Crusher Chevrolet of Gary Porter. That could be the truck we got to watch today.
Well, let's take a quick look now, Army, at some highlights from round 1. You mentioned Gary Porter. He won the first Penda Points race of the year. He looked strong, taking out Paul Schaefer. But with this year's format, Schaefer will come back as the fast loser. There's the time for Gary Porter, the Carolina Crusher, in the first round. Well, the best of round 1 was a 5.06 by Fred Schaefer, taking out Alan Pizzo's Predator. Now, we've had some rain earlier today. It's muddy out there, and the grass is very wet, as you can see the shutdown area. And there's the time for Fred Schaefer once again in the first round. Round 2 action coming up from Lima, Ohio. Welcome back to the Allen County Fairgrounds here in Lima, Ohio. Look at some of the fun and games on the midway as Ford Trucks present the 4-wheel Jamboree Spring Nationals, part of the Special Events Performance Series. Round 2 coming up. We take a look at the pairings. Now, once again, remember, Paul Schaefer's Monster Patrol and Pam Vodder's Boogie Van come back as the fast losers from round 1.
Paul Schaefer knows he's going to have to be dead on the tree in the first round. He's a little bit late. Salvage operator out of northern Indiana has the horsepower, has the driving experience. He's a past world champion in the sport of professional mud racing. Comes in the monster truck and is still involved in a learning curve, Gary.
Well, Dan Ruddy pulls alongside the Power Wheels Bigfoot Ford. Now, keep in mind, in qualifying, the fastest pass ever at 4.84. And this track, despite being so wet and muddy, seems to be getting faster as the competition continues.
Well, you got to realize these big cleats on these big tires, they'll go right through that mud. They'll take about 2 inches down in, and that's where they can still plant the horsepower. I say, I rest my case.
Yeah, it's all Dan Runte in the Bob Chandler Bigfoot Ford. And there's a 4.93, not that far off what he qualified at 4.84. Staging now, there is Eric Meager in Bigfoot 15. He had all that trouble that we talked about at the RCA Dome when we started the season indoors in Indianapolis this past winter. That is Bigfoot 15 out of the Bob Chandler organization. That is Ken Deppy in the Dodge Rampage. Right now, Army has Dan Runte.
Dan, come out here real quick and watch this race with me. Bigfoot going against Rampage right now. Is there anything either driver ought to know?
It's, as far as the right lane going, it really came around, Army. At the beginning of this race, we thought it was going to be really a hooking condition to where it was going to throw the truck to one side or the other, and it seems to come around real good. The truck's going straight down that track as far as the right lane. I haven't been in the left lane. Eric, go out here and run a good race and just keep the truck straight. He shouldn't have any problem at all.
Once again, there is Deppy and Rampage. That's part of the Fred Schaefer Dodge team. He pulls alongside Eric Meager in Bigfoot 15. And look at that. The brand new Dodge Rampage truck takes the victory of 490 for Ken Deppy. That has to come as a surprise.
I'll tell you, Deppy's an up-and-comer. He's been there before. He's got good equipment. Not really a surprise, Gary.
On the replay, right lane, watch the rough landing for Ken Deppy. Almost noses down in the mud, but he saves it and takes that victory over Bigfoot. And now standing by trackside, Army with Ken Deppy.
Come here. That's got to feel good. It's been a long time coming.
Army, it feels really good. You know, we've been out here at Dodge, been really helping us out. Viper Auto Security, we're really glad to have our good sponsors. We've been working real hard. We've been working hard all in the off season trying to get ready for this. It's coming together real nice.
How about you and a Ford?
You know, there ain't any love lost there, Army. I think you know that. They run good, so we got to run better.
Okay, the next matchup now in round two as the competition continues. You look inside at the feet and lower extremities of Gary Porter in the Carolina Crusher. He won in the RCA Dome in Indianapolis indoors, as now the Penda Points Series moves outdoors here at Lima, Ohio. And he goes up against Brian Welsh. There's Gary Porter in the truck from Wadesboro, North Carolina.
Brian Welch, he's another one of the privateers. I say that he's working with the sponsor, potentially with the Dairy Mart people. He relies on the Keith Black for all kind of horsepower and Firestone tires. This Welch kid, even though he and Porter both are pulling the money out of their pocket to run this circuit, would be a good billboard for somebody to get hooked up with.
All right, so they are staged now. There's a look at Rick Rice, our starter, about to turn them loose here in Lima, Ohio. Porter the near lane, Welch the far lane.
You know, the starter at these events are from the local club. There's always a local 4x4 club helping out, and we appreciate Rick and his club working with us. I believe they call themselves the Rough Riders here.
Out of Goshen, Indiana.
Exactly.
Indiana.
Whoa,
Gary Porter likes to be outside. He likes the long tracks. That truck always has been noted for developing the horsepower in no man's land. A 514, not as quick as we've seen today.
Yeah, but Gary, you well know Porter will drive the truck just hard enough to win. He does not abuse equipment.
Well, the final race of round two coming up. There's Pam Butters in the Boogie van. Earlier, Army used this vehicle to point out the advancements in monster truck technology.
Gary, you know, it wasn't too long ago when we first started doing this television show that you and I both could literally walk underneath these monster trucks. Well, that's not the case anymore. Real quick, I want to show you a couple of observations I made. Number one, look how low the truck is. The height is gone. The reason they lower the truck is to get a better center of gravity. You got to remember, these guys are not only driving the trucks, they're flying them. Another observation, the engine locations. Instead of being in the stock location like you bought off the showroom floor, the drivers are moving the engines behind them and down lower. Again, it gives you a better center of gravity, so the truck handles better. But the center of gravity being low makes the truck handle better, but you got to have one thing that makes the truck work. Those are the shock absorbers. We keep talking about the Custer shock absorbers. Okay, this technology came from off-road racing and has definitely found a home in a monster trucks. You got to remember, these are 10,000-pound behemoth landing time after time. The trick is low center of gravity, making it stick with the shock absorbers.
All right, we'll watch the effect of those shocks in the landing area as we get ready once again for the final matchup of round 2. Bam Botters in the boogie van. There's Fred Schaefer in barefoot, the veteran out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, an old drag racing veteran before he moved to monster truck racing. Had a dismal season last year in that Dodge truck and certainly hopes to turn things around this year.
Yeah, well, they've definitely regrouped. They put the war paint on, and they're going to play hardball this year. Meanwhile, one of the undersung heroes in the sport is that young lady over there. She and her husband have qualified for a lot of these shows, but don't make it past this round.
And once again, she gets knocked out by Fred Schaefer, and barefoot logs in at 5.08 ET. So Fred Schaefer continues on. There's a look at the boogie van, who did a little bootleg spin down there. Now watch on the replay. Watch the shutdown area, the far lane. Watch Botters as she gets on the brakes, turns the steering wheel, and slides her just a bit. Oh, Joey Chitwood would be proud of that move. Let's go down trackside and talk with our winner, Fred Schaefer. He's with Army.
Well, Gary, I'm down with the man of the hour right now. 2 Dodges going to the next round. It seems like the rhythm's back. This seems to be the team of old.
I think you're right, Army. This new Ram's really working for us this year. We've done a lot of research and development over the winter, and we're feeling real good about what's going on the first of the year.
Team got a lot bigger, too. I noticed you got more guys doing more specialty works, like some other teams out there. That could have been what you were looking for. Takes a little pressure off of you and lets them handle some of the problems.
It does, Army. We've had the team a few years now, and we're building a strong team. We're really feeling good about it, and we're looking for a good year this year.
The competition continues. Beware of the bear. A full grandstands here at the Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio, as we prepare for semifinal action. We'll have a pair of Dodge trucks from the Fred Schaefer racing team. There's one, the Rampage of Ken Deppy, and also a Chevrolet and a Ford. And the Ford, of course, is Bigfoot Power Wheels. Dan Runte.
You know, in an earlier interview, Schaefer told us he had regrouped over the winter months, and it's showing itself because he's got 2 of those big Mopar-powered vehicles this far in the show.
Chevrolet, of course, belongs to Gary Porter, the Carolina Crusher. We'll be seeing him momentarily. Rick Rice there taking a look at the racing area. There's a look at Deppy in the near lane, Runte the far lane. The semifinals here in Lima. Well, that was the whole shot that won it for Dan Runte at 4.91. He's been very consistent throughout the competition.
Runte's doing exactly what he has to do. He took one of the Dodges out of the picture today, Gary.
1 Dodge left. That's the barefoot of Fred Schaefer. And, of course, he takes on the Chevrolet Carolina Crusher of Gary Porter. Of course, that winner will face Dan Runte in the finals. And Dan right now has climbed out of his truck. He's with Army.
Tough race. You knew he was coming after you. Had to cut a light out of a lane and nobody else liked it. Worked for you.
Yeah, we did, Army. You know, all the fast times been coming out of this. Ken ran that lane round before this one, and he moved over the right lane, not knowing what the right lane would do. He'd been running the left lane. It was tough for him. Ford Power Wheels is working well. The crew's got me dialed in. We're talking a lot. Both lanes are coming around, and we're not afraid to go back and run the left lane again.
Well, coming up is Gary Porter. There's a look at Gary. He leads the Penda Points Championship right now by virtue of a win at the RCA Dome in Indianapolis. And earlier, Army cut up with him to talk about shocks.
Big talk being Fords and Dodges, but the Chevrolet guru, if you will, is Gary Porter. And Gary, the suspension is so important with these vehicles. Very quickly, I know you're getting ready to go race. Can you tell me about these shock absorbers you guys are running?
Yeah, the shocks that I have on my truck, they have a 26-inch long stroke, and they're nitrogen charged, shock. And Steve Combs up in Wisconsin makes them for us. And, he does a real good job on them, the shocks. We can set it down in the shock some, and so when we're flying through the air, the axle will drop out. So we'll get on the ground a little bit quicker.
And there is a look at Gary Porter in the cockpit of the Carolina Crusher.
The staging process in monster truck racing is just like drag racing. You got 2 beams right there. You got a pre-stage and a stage light. Once they're staged, both vehicles have to stay still. Once both lights are lit, that's when you look at the bottom light, which is the go light in this case. A lot of people don't know how you start these things, but that's it.
With the wheelie through no man's land. Let's check. I think yes, he's been disqualified. He did not make it over that second set of cars. Fred Schaefer wins it at a 5:01 ET.
Yeah, but Schaefer's indicating he's got a problem in the shutdown area, Gary.
On the replay, watch the right lane. Gary Porter wheel stands it in no man's land right here. It pulls off to his left. The left side tires fail to make contact with the cars. That's his problem. Let's check on Fred Schaefer's problem.
Real quick, a lot of discussion going on. Do you have any idea what it was?
Army, I think it's something electrical because it just, I mean, it didn't run out of fuel. It just shut just like you turned the key off.
Okay, you have two trucks here, both of them powered by the Chrysler Hemi engine. Can you take pieces off the other truck and put it on this truck and make the final?
I think we can do it, Army. As long as nothing internal and it's a magneto or magneto belt or something like that, no problem. 5 minutes.
And Gary Porter checking out those shocks that let him down.
Bob Wildberger of Dodge Truck was looking on, and indeed it was a magneto or electrical problem. They're going to get into this thing, Gary.
Well, Army, before the finals, here are some highlights from the tough truck competition. Russ Roach here tagged some yellow iron, cut on the brakes, slid to a stop against an earth mover. And here is Troy Air Tate as he lives up to his nickname. Watch this. Oh, the crowd loves it. Tears up the front axle. And the fans preferred Haynes, as in David Haynes in his 73 Chevy Blazer.
Inspected by number 13. Watch what this guy does. Whoops, tag. Okay, now backs up, takes a run at the final jump.
There goes the front axle again. Oh, his 15 minutes of fame. Right there he is. Love that driving suit. T-shirt and jeans and an old helmet, but he has the neck brace on.
Hey, he's having fun.
Back to the starting line, the finals. We're ready for Dan Runte and the Power Wheels Bigfoot, the Big Ford of Bob and Marilyn Chandler, and the Big Dodge Barefoot of Fred Schaefer.
I don't care what anybody says, this is a corporate war at this point. No love lost between the teams. We watch Schaefer as he works in the starting line. Same type starting you use in drag racing. You can win it or lose it by thousandths of a second. Let's just watch and see who's going to win this one today.
The Big Dodge Barefoot takes the victory here in Lima, Ohio, a 4.72. Look at that, fastest run ever, 4.72. The current standings, Fred Schaefer leads Gary Porter, Ken Deppy, the other Dodge driver, then Dan Runte and Paul Schaefer.
Record, track record. 4.72, I think.
4.72, Fred. Oh, yes.
Okay, as you can tell, they're not real happy down here. A 4.72 is the unofficial word we get. You know, you're the new national points leader. You've worked so hard to come back. If people only knew how hard you had to work to get back to where you are right now, congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Army. That's the fastest time ever recorded, and believe me, when the Dodge team rolled in, the sun came out, and boy, it feels good to be in a winner's circle.
Let me ask you about the chassis set. You went over the cars and set it down in the middle, and your rear wheels were tracking all the way through. Did you make any kind of chassis adjustment before that run?
No, Army, I just ran it as hard as it would run. It didn't matter what kind of shape the truck was in. I wasn't letting off the gas.
We just got the word it's official, a new world record, 4.72. Congratulations to you and the Dodge team.
Thank you very much.
Hey, that'll do it. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports.